Hey, it's Kevin Tolfa with GigaOhm, and today I'd like to show you the Samsung Infuse 4G. It is the newest phone from AT&T, just announced last week. Goes on sale this Friday, May 15th for $199 with a contract. Couple standout features that we're going to look at in detail in a few minutes. A 4.5-inch Super AMOLED Plus screen from Samsung. This is the largest smartphone screen that I've seen on a device that AT&T sells. The Dell Streak does work for AT&T's network, however, AT&T does not sell that directly. So this is the largest that AT&T sells. It's actually quite thin. We'll look at that. We'll do some size comparisons. It also doesn't have a dual-core processor. It has a single-core 1.2 gigahertz processor, so we'll look a little bit at the performance as well. Let me put that aside just for a minute. We'll go through what's in the box. What do you get for your $199? Let's see. First, you get a quick start manual, which I never read those. You get I'm going to cover that up. It's a free $25 activation code credit for Samsung's Media Hub store. That's the store that Samsung has started back in October to allow you to purchase or rent videos on your device. So the first 500,000 people that buy this device get a code for that. That's pretty handy. What else do we have in the box? We've got the power adapter, which you plug in a USB cable right here. And of course, they include a USB cable. It connects like that. And you've got micro USB on the other end to plug into the phone for charging. You've got a micro SD card adapter. That is useful because there's a 2 GB micro SD card already installed in the device. You also have pair of headphones, and there are these are in-ear headphones. There are 3 size ear cups for those. That's nice. And finally, I noticed that the phone did not have an HDMI port, so you can't, at least I didn't think you could pipe maybe video to an HD TV, for example, or photos. But you actually can, because there's an MHL to HDMI adapter, and I've never seen one of these before. So this is micro USB on one end, and then a full-size HDMI port on the other end. Very handy. Alright, that is everything in the box. So what we will do is, now that I've got this all fired up and ready to go, we're going to take a look at that 4.5-inch screen, give you a walk around of the phone, and compare it in terms of size to some other devices to give you an idea of how big this device really is. Okay, let's take a hardware tour of the Infuse 4G. Obviously, the prominent 4.5-inch display is going to jump out at most people. It is a Super AMOLED Plus display from Samsung. It's got to be one of the most vivid, beautiful screens I've seen on a mobile device yet. It's fantastic. On the bottom, we have the standard capacitive buttons that are familiar to most Android users. And above the screen, we have a 1.3 megapixel front-facing camera for video chat. The top of the device, you'll see there's a microphone port as well as a 3.5mm headphone jack. On the right-hand side is a power button to turn the device on, turn it off, and to wake it. Underneath, we have another microphone port as well as a micro USB jack. You'd use that for charging and syncing. And on the left side, we have nothing more than the volume up, volume down. You can see that the phone is pretty thin. I have an iPod Touch 4th generation device here. It's got a little bit of a case on it, not much. And these devices are pretty darn comparable in terms of thinness. We'll get back to that device because I want to compare the screen in a second. On the back side, we have an 8 megapixel camera, not front facing, it's rear facing. Well, it's front facing now. It handles 720p video capture. There's an LED flash down below, and at the bottom we have the speakerphone. I'm going to take the back cover off. It's texturized plastic. I want to do that because I want to show you the 1750 milliamp battery, also the SIM card slot, and then underneath the SIM card slot, going from top to bottom, that is where the micro SD card goes. And that means if you want to change that out, you need to shut down the device, take the battery out after removing the cover, and then you can get to that card. So not really the best design there, but to be honest, the device is so thin, I don't know that where else they could have put it. So, alright, let's do some size comparisons as I'm hitting buttons all over the place. All of these devices are at their full brightness. This is the Google Nexus 1 compared to the Infuse. We already had the iPod Touch. That is a 3.5-inch screen. We have, let's add the G2X to the mix with its slightly smaller screen. You can see this phone is so much bigger, yet it still fits in a pocket, and it is quite thin, quite thin. Just for kicks, because I know someone's going to ask, hey, here's what it looks like next to a 7-inch tablet. In fact, I have to zoom out, which is absolutely ridiculous, but that's what you get. There's your tablet comparison. This phone looks big, but it does fit in a pocket. And it's actually not too bad for one-handed use. So, all right, let's take a quick peek at a speed test, because some people have been concerned that the phone has a 21 megabit per second radio, and yet AT&T's network is not up to snuff for that yet. They're in the midst of upgrading their network. Well, that's a valid concern. So I'm going to do a test right for you here now. This is in my home office. I am in the sticks of Pennsylvania. I do not live in an area with the enhanced backhaul. This is a little bit slower than I've seen. I've seen speeds up to about 3 megabits per second so far. So it's a little bit slow for whatever reason. Uploads, those are still slow because I know AT&T is still working on their HSUPA network upgrades, as well as for the phones, just the support of HSUPA. So this one's crawling along a little bit worse than other tests I've gotten here in my home network. If I go to the results, you can see I've had some better tests. The very first one was actually phenomenal, 3,200 down and over a meg going back up, so not too shabby. But again, as AT&T's network gets better, this phone will see improvements because it already has the radio that can handle that. So, one of the other things I really like is obviously the display. So if we go to the video player, and let's grab the X-Men trailer. I have the sound off. This is just beautiful for watching videos. It's got a great viewing angle. It's vivid. It's clear. The colors just pop. I don't think I've seen a better screen on a mobile device yet, quite honestly. The Super AMOLED Plus is very nice. Still a little washed out outdoors, but it is better than prior AMOLED screens. So that's that. We'll pause that. Let's go back. We'll go home. As far as the 1.2 gigahertz processor, hey, it's not dual core, but it's not really the slowest thing in the world either. You know, moving from app to app hasn't been too bad. Let's switch over to something else I had open. Let's just go back to the speed test. Boom. I mean, there's not a tremendous lag when switching. It's not bad at all. So it's 1.2 gigahertz single core. For $199, you know, I still don't think it's all that bad. Some of the dual core phones are as low as $199, but this is actually a much nicer screen in my opinion. So in any case, I'll have a full review of this in the next coming days. But for now, that is a first look at the Samsung Infuse 4G with the Super AMOLED Plus 4.5-inch display.